You didn't get rid of the mess. You changed what it's made of. That pile of junk in your garage, the broken lamp, the tangle of cables, the clothes you never wear, wasn't destroyed the day you hauled it to the donation center. It changed state. Solid became invisible, and invisible is exactly where money goes to disappear without you ever noticing it left. Here's the part nobody tells you when you fall in love with empty countertops. Matter doesn't vanish. Not in physics and not in your bank account. Energy converts, mass converts. A messy $40 junk drawer full of dollar store gadgets doesn't get replaced by nothing. It gets replaced by a $14 a month app that organizes your life. A $10 meditation subscription to calm the anxiety the clutter used to distract you from. A $200 capsule wardrobe of 5 perfect shirts that quietly costs more than the 20 ugly ones combined. You didn't shrink your spending, you compressed it. And compressed things under pressure get more expensive per square inch. Think about what happens to a solid when you heat it past its limit. It doesn't disappear. It turns to gas. And gas is the most dangerous phase of matter because you can't see it filling the room. It doesn't pile up in a corner where your eyes can catch it and your gut can say, "This is too much." Gas spreads evenly. It presses on every wall of the room at once, silently, and you only notice it when you're already struggling to breathe. That's what your spending did the day you became a minimalist. The visible clutter, the stuff that made you wince every time you opened a closet that was solid. Ugly, obvious, easy to blame. So you got rid of it. Good. But the money that used to buy cheap, visible stuff didn't stay in your pocket. It changed phase. It became recurring. It became invisible. It became the 7 subscriptions you can't quite remember signing up for, each one small enough to not register as a threat. Each one part of the same gas now filling every room of your financial life evenly, pressing on every wall at once. You feel lighter. Your closet looks like a magazine, and your account is quietly suffocating. Here's where it gets worse, because clutter doesn't just change state, it adapts. Like any organism under threat, it doesn't die when you attack it. It evolves into a form your immune system stops recognizing as dangerous. The messy fast fashion pile becomes 3 investment pieces that cost the same as 50 t-shirts. The junk drawer gadgets become one minimalist all-in-one device, sleek, matte, expensive, and somehow you needed the premium version and the case for it, and the subscription that unlocks its full features. The mess didn't shrink. It got a disguise, and the disguise is called taste. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The aesthetic itself becomes the trap. Once your brain associates clean and curated with correct, you start paying a premium just to keep matching that identity. Not because the $40 candle burns better, because a cluttered candle collection felt chaotic and one perfect candle feels like control. You're not buying a candle, you're buying the feeling of having solved something. And feelings, unlike candles, need to be repurchased every single month. Somewhere between your second decluttering weekend and your 5th curated mood board, the target quietly moved. You stopped asking, "Do I need this?" and started asking, "Does this fit the life I'm building?" That single shift in the question is where financial minimalism turns into a slower, better-dressed version of the exact impulse spending it promised to cure. Watch how it plays out in a single ordinary week. Monday, you cancel a cheap streaming bundle because it felt cluttered. 3 services, too many logins, too much noise. Wednesday, you sign up for one premium service instead, twice the monthly price, because it has a cleaner interface and no ads. Friday, you buy a $40 water bottle to replace the 4 plastic ones under your sink, because matching bottles feel calmer than mismatched ones. By Sunday, you've spent more than the 3 services and 4 bottles ever cost you combined, and you feel like you've simplified your life. Nothing about that week was reckless. Every purchase was intentional, considered, even proud. That's exactly why it's so hard to catch. And notice something else, because this is where the trail goes cold on purpose. Nobody in this story looks reckless. Nobody's drowning in receipts from a chaotic shopping spree. The person paying the most, ironically, often looks the most disciplined. $500 spent on 12 minimalist essentials looks like restraint on a bank statement. $500 spent on 50 items on sale looks like a problem. Same number. Completely different verdict from your own brain. The gas is invisible not just to your eyes, it's invisible to your own judgment. Let's slow down here, because this is where the real damage compounds. A cluttered life at least has a ceiling. There's only so much stuff a closet can physically hold before you're forced to stop and deal with it. Gas has no ceiling. A subscription doesn't max out a shelf. It just quietly renews, month after month, long after the reason you signed up has faded from memory. The meditation app you used for 11 days in January is still charging you in July. The premium cloud storage you bought because your old phone was full is still billing you on the phone you upgraded 2 years ago. None of these individually feel like a decision. That's exactly the design. A single $300 purchase forces you to stop, hesitate, feel the weight of it. A $9 renewal asks for nothing. It doesn't even ask twice. It asked once, years ago, and it's been collecting ever since. Now stack that pattern across every category minimalism touches: wardrobe, tech, wellness, home decor, productivity, and you start to see the shape of it. It's not one leak. It's a dozen small leaks, each one below the threshold where your brain flags danger, all filling the same tank at the same time. You didn't declutter your spending. You just distributed it into containers too small to trigger an alarm. Here's a number that tends to land harder than any warning ever could. If you're carrying even 6 small recurring charges averaging $15 each, that's $90 a month. Not dramatic, barely noticeable on any single statement. But over a year, that's over $1,000, moving through your account in a shape too small to ever feel like spending. Compare that to the one item you actually remember buying and regretting. The impulse purchase you still think about. The one that made you feel guilty enough to start decluttering in the first place. That single visible mistake probably cost you less than the invisible one you've been paying quietly for the last 3 years without a second thought. That's the cruelest part of this whole cycle. The visible mistake taught you a lesson. The invisible one never will, because it never gets loud enough to demand your attention. Pain teaches. Comfort doesn't. And recurring, aesthetic, well-packaged spending is designed, whether anyone admits it or not, to feel like comfort at every single step. So what actually breaks this loop, if getting rid of stuff isn't the fix? You have to stop asking whether something is minimal and start asking whether it's recurring. That's the real fault line. A single visible purchase, painful and obvious, forces a decision every time you make it. A recurring charge forces a decision exactly once, the day you sign up, and then quietly renews itself for years without ever asking permission again. The mess you can see costs you once. The mess you can't see costs you forever. Try this right now without judging yourself for what you find. Pull up your bank statement and circle every charge under $20, not the big ones. The small, forgettable, recurring ones. Add them up. Most people who do this for the first time find somewhere between $100 and $400 a month, sitting quietly, dressed up as taste, wellness, or convenience. That number is your gas leak. It was never in the garage. It was never in the closet. It's been sitting in your account this entire time, pressing evenly on every wall, waiting for you to actually look for it instead of just feeling lighter. Once you find that number, resist the urge to cancel everything in a panic. That's just another version of the same impulsive reaction that filled your closet in the first place, just pointed in a different direction. Instead, treat every recurring charge the way real minimalism was always supposed to treat physical objects. Does this earn its place, or does it just sit here because removing it felt like more effort than keeping it? Most subscriptions survive purely on that one quiet fact. Not because they're valuable, because canceling them requires a decision, and renewing them requires nothing at all. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Minimalism was never supposed to be about how a room looks. It was supposed to be about where the mask goes when it leaves the room. If it disappears into recurring, invisible, aesthetic spending, you didn't simplify your life. You just moved the weight somewhere your eyes can't check anymore and gave it a monthly billing cycle instead of a shelf. Real financial minimalism doesn't ask, "Is my home clean?" It asks, "Can I see every dollar leaving my account without opening 5 different apps to be reminded it exists?" If the answer is no, you haven't decluttered anything. You've just made your own spending harder to catch, dressed it in better packaging, and called it peace of mind. And that's the actual trap hiding under every satisfying before and after photo of an empty shelf. The mess didn't go away. It learned how to hide in plain sight, wearing better fabric, charging you monthly instead of once, counting on the fact that a clean room feels too good to interrogate. Check the gas before it fills the whole house.